So recently we spent a lot of time talking about the huge value in collaboration. Konnect Brain Profiling is all about the collaboration, and one of our partners is Tracy Norton. So with the brain profiling and counselling, they really work hand in hand, and we're going to go into a bit more detail about that this morning. But every person, just as you have a unique fingerprint, you have a unique brain. And your thinking preferences affect every area of your life. And that's the beauty of brain profiling, and what sets it apart from other assessments is that we really get to zone in on your unique thinking preferences, how that affects you, and also how you can use that to your benefit, enhancing your whole brain to make decisions in all areas and aspects of your life. But as I say, today we are zooming in on teenagers and what that could mean for them. Welcome, Tracy.
Thank you so much, Senet. Thank you for having me. My name is Tracy Norton. I'm a wellness counsellor, and my practice is, interestingly, collaborative counselling. Collaboration is a very key value for me. I believe it's an essential part of how I work with my clients as we walk a collaborative journey. We co-create together, and I love to collaborate with other professionals that complement and supplement the work that I do. And working with Senet, I believe, is an absolutely wonderful synergy of our mutual interests and passions in how we can come together and provide a holistic, wonderful service, especially for teens and young adults who are going through such a difficult time of self-exploration, self-acceptance, and ultimately saying, who am I and am I okay? Thank you.
Wonderful. So one of the key things that's come up for me recently is I've been seeing a lot of teenagers that have to make big choices. So obviously during the growth and development phase, the choices become more. And that can be quite stressful. So at the moment, a big focus is subject choices.
Oh, yes.
And of course, end of year exams, which is also stressful. What I've felt is really useful with the brain profiling is that when the teenagers know exactly what their brain profiles are, they're able to make better choices. They're able to align their subjects to their thinking preferences. And that actually alleviates a lot of stress. Because a lot of times the question arises, who am I?
Yes.
And I think that you can maybe elaborate more on that and what that means for the teens.
Sure. Well, being a teenager, as I'm sure you remember from your own teens, I mean, a major developmental process of adolescence is identity formation. And it's very critical to the ongoing development of any young adult, is that this identity crisis is resolved reasonably successfully during adolescence. And there's so many pressures on our kids. So the question of who am I is critically important. And what I absolutely love about what you do is that you're helping to answer that question in a way that beautifully and perfectly supports each and every individual. Because who am I is so different to who are you.
Right.
And so many of our children, there's this, I want to be different, but I want to be the same. And then I feel inadequate because I'm not the same. And Konnect Brain Profiling helps the youngster to be like, okay, this is me. And no, I'm not the same as my friend, or I'm not the same as my role model, but hell, I've got strengths and I'm okay as I am.
Right.
And that I almost feel is like a, in terms of the journey of self-acceptance.
Yeah, breath of fresh air. It really helps a lot if you understand how your brain works and you understand why you react the way that you do. But as I mentioned earlier, it just brings a lot of peace for the students as well when they are going into a direction and they feel comfortable with it. It just brings a certain amount of confidence as well and alleviates that stress. I think what you also talk about is being different is that they don't want to stand out in the wrong way.
In the wrong way.
And there's so many other things vying for their attention at the moment. I mean, besides the exam stress, the subject choices, there's the pressure from social media. and the pictures that are created, that what you should do and should be like, and it's just all such a rush, and it's kind of all instant as well, and what it has to be, and if it's not like that, then there's something wrong. So that's the thing that I also truly appreciate about brain profiling, is the fact that we realize that you can engage your whole brain, and you do use every area of your brain, but there are some preferences, and how to use that to propel yourself forward. And then, of course, the opposite of that is also true, is everybody else around you, to understand them better, because everybody thinks differently. So when you come together and you use the best parts, that is when that collaboration again takes place. But we were talking earlier about a statement, with the brain profiling, that it really determines how your brain works. And then the counselling, and that part is so important, is how do I deal with what I'm feeling?
Absolutely. And that's also the other critical component of supporting adolescents and young adults through their journey of development. It's a very emotional part of life. It's a particularly emotional part of life. And counselling provides the safe space where they can come, sit, and without judgment, without fear of criticism, without fear of rejection, to really explore some of their fears, their hopes, their dreams, to develop stress management tools, how to cope with anxiety, how to cope with rejection.
Yes.
We know that that's a key factor of suicide in teens. So being able to cope with those big emotions. As a 2-year-old, you lie on the floor and you have a tantrum. Right. As a teenager, it becomes a lot more complicated. And that's really where counselling just creates that space. It's not mom, it's not dad, it's not Auntie Flo. It's just somebody who can listen to you, guide you, support you, and then help to develop that confidence to move forward. And of course, then working with what you're bringing in is that understanding of self and acceptance of self. That is such a key building block to that journey.
I think you mentioned something now about, it's not mom, it's not dad, it's not an aunt. I think that is so important, that you have created a safe space for people to come and share their deep emotions and things that, and that they are able to be vulnerable. Yes. And share that with you in a space where you can nurture that, be open about it, and then use that information to grow. And that growth and development is where the overlap is again between the brain profiling and the collaboration. Because the brain profiling, again, it just gives you so much information about the choices that you make, in this case, subject choices. Now we know as well what the best study methods are going to be. So it can alleviate a lot of the stress of studying and working towards your exams. And then when you've got the study method sorted out, you can implement this in your other decisions as well going forward. But then having all of that information and really using it as a growth and development tool, we can also incorporate again the counselling, where we can have a check-in on how are you doing. Now that you've received this information, you know where you stand, how is it going, what steps have you put in place, how's the development going, and how do I adjust when life throws things at me. How do I adjust to those areas that are maybe not my most preferred areas of my brain, but now I'm aware of that. So what do I do to go into that area? And then from a counsellor's point of view, what mechanisms do I have to put in place to deal with that in an appropriate way, so that the proper solutions and growth and development once again are achieved?
Absolutely. I was just looking this morning at what are the key skills that young entrants into the workplace need to have in place. If we're looking at the next 10 years, because the workplace is now very different to what it used to be when you and I came into the workplace. And some of the top key skills emotional intelligence, the first part of which is understanding yourself,
Right.
understanding others. That's exactly what you're providing for them, is that understanding of self and others. And also developing emotional resilience to be able to handle setback, to be able to handle change, and to be adaptable. Right. So I think between brain profiling and counselling, we are enabling youngsters to be able to develop these skills, to move forward with more strength and less anxiety into the years that come ahead for them.
You've just touched on something very important that's just come to mind, because I've done a few profiles this week, and one of the key questions that keep emerging in the past few sessions that I've had is the role of AI going forward, which can also be very stressful for the learners, because they are often confronted with, I have my passions and my dreams, but are they going to be able to be realized in future? Yes. How is that going to be affected by AI? But exactly what you said is so true, is that those emotions, the feelings, the emotional intelligence, those are the things that AI cannot mimic. No. So that is very, very important and very key for all ages, really, to hold on to that, to really hone in and to get that holistic approach to go forward, because that is the one thing that we can rely on, that we can fall back on, that cannot be replaced.
Absolutely.
With AI.
The emotional intelligence, the communication skills, empathy. AI can pretend to have that, it doesn't have that.
I like to think sometimes it does, but it really doesn't. Well, this has been really, really interesting and very useful, and I'm sure that we're going to have a few other topics that we discuss as well. There are so many things that we can discuss specifically about students, but all different ages of life. But this was very useful, and really hope that we have spoken into some of the concerns and questions and queries maybe that some students or even parents have. Collaboration, as we've said, is a wonderful tool, and we look forward to sharing some more with you in future. Any last words, Tracy?
Just thank you so much for this opportunity. I agree. I think we can collaborate so incredibly effectively in this space and have many more discussions. Thank you.
Thank you.